Welcome back to another episode. We're so grateful that you're here with us today. If this is your first time joining the show, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure that you click on that subscribe button because we drop a new episode every Wednesday, and you'll want to make sure that you get that notification. And just as a reminder, you guys, if you're getting value out of these episodes, please support the show. Whatever platform you're listening on, we kindly ask that you leave a 5-star review, a 5-star rating, and a written review. Now on to today's topic.
Which is one of our favorites.
Yeah, this is one of our favorites. We talk about it a lot, but it's talking about living in alignment.
Alignment with what?
Well, I'd say alignment with our values.
Alignment with our values.
And alignment with who we really are deep on the inside.
Yes. And you know what? Today's our 75th episode.
Today's our 75th episode?
Can you believe it?
Wow. We just keep going.
We do keep going.
Yeah.
So I got a couple questions for you guys today. Have you ever been so immersed in a project that the background noise of the world just seemed to sort of fade away?
Yes.
Have you ever experienced brief moments in your career where you were just on fire? You felt like you were living your purpose and it didn't even feel like work?
More recently. Foreshadowing.
Yes. And conversely, Robert, on that topic, have you ever achieved what you thought was your dream life, your dream career, only to kind of find yourself kind of dreading to wake up in the morning and go to work?
Oh, yeah. No, that was me.
That was you.
That was me.
Why don't you tell us about that?
So when Cheryl and I first married, I was a general contractor. I didn't really enjoy that life. And so it took me a little while to make a decision. And at age 33, I decided, let's just go back to school.
With 2 kids.
Yeah, with 2 kids. Married, 2 kids. Started over from scratch at age 33. I had to finish my bachelor's degree and my doctorate degree. And I spent 6 years really working my butt off to earn this degree. And Charlotte and the kids were just so supportive in this. On one of my final clinical rotations, I was with a company that I absolutely loved. And the people were great. Still love the president of that company. Everything was just fantastic. And I really wanted to work there. It was close to home. It was what I was looking for. And after graduation, I actually got the job.
You did. And we were so excited.
Yeah. And it was, talk about a path and a dream, like let's go to school, let's get the job. And then, and I got the job and we worked with that company for a long time. And after about 10 years, I'd worked my way up through various positions in the company to become, a partner, a part owner and CEO of this healthcare company. And that was it. I've arrived. Right? Yeah. I made it. I'm CEO. And this is perfect. When we set out 16 years prior to that to go back to school, this was sort of the goal. And here I was with everything I'd worked for. Had the job, had the salary, had the profit sharing, I had an expense account, 2 months worth of, vacation a year or more. No real set schedule at that time. I could work from home if I felt like it. All the things that I thought that I wanted in this dream life. And yet just something wasn't right. And I kept searching for that missing piece. And I thought maybe it's outside of work, right? Maybe I can just find out. And so I said, let's do an Ironman race. And okay, did an Ironman. Check. Maybe it's the love of flying. So I got my private pilot's license. Check. That didn't seem to really do much. I mean, I liked flying, but more vacations, which I loved. And I found that I was the happiest when I was actually not at work. I was the happiest when I was with my family, but not being at work. And so you might say it didn't really light me up.
Yeah.
And the problem was most days when I came home to the office, I was pretty frustrated, mad sometimes and frustrated. I just wasn't a happy individual.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
I remember you coming home pretty upset most days from work.
Yeah. And the company was growing and it was profitable. So it wasn't, that goal that I had for myself as CEO wasn't really a problem, but I couldn't figure out what it really was. And then one day, Charlotte and I are sitting in the master bathroom of this new house that we had just built. And Charlotte said, "Hey, I want to try something." And she grabbed a dry erase pen and went over to the mirror and she started asking me questions.
And the question that I asked him, so I'm standing, picture Robert, he's sitting on the tub.
Yep.
And I'm standing in front of the mirror and I have a dry erase pen in my hand. And I ask him, "So Robert, what is important to you in the context of your career?" And what'd you say?
So first answer off the top of my head was money.
Money. Okay.
Yeah, because it had been a long time to get there.
Right. Absolutely. And that's a normal thing. We go to work to make money. So I wrote money on the mirror in the bathroom. And then I said, what else?
And then I said, helping people, because I was in the healthcare business. So yeah, I liked helping people.
Good. Good. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Helping people. What else?
Personal growth. I want to continue to grow as a person.
Sure, that makes sense. You were still going to conferences and continuing to learn and doing different programs that, through the
I was
company.
doing some leadership stuff. Yeah.
Leadership stuff. Okay, great. So what else? What else was important to you in the context of your career? I continued to ask him because these were things I kind of knew that were sort of surface level, and yet I knew there was something deeper. So what else?
She kept asking me the same annoying question, like, and what else? With sort of this wonderful voice that she has, and what else? Calm. And finally, I'm just going through this list, and she's writing them all down. And finally, I say recognition. And she made that noise too.
Interesting. Okay, because ding, ding, ding. In my mind, I'm thinking that's something he's not getting a lot of right now at work. So I write recognition up on the mirror. And then I just, again, ask the same question. What else is important to you in the context of your career?
Yeah. An important thing to remember here is now I was out of all those top of mind questions or answers. So I just said, freedom and autonomy to change, really just digging into maybe something was there.
Right. And that I knew was a really big one because I knew there was things you had wanted to do and certain changes you wanted to affect that you were frustrated about.
Yeah.
Right. So we kept going until we had a big list. So.
Yeah. And eventually through some patience and some firmness on her part, and she wouldn't let me go, she flushed out this list of the most important values to me in the context of my career. And then Charla asked me the question.
So I said, okay, honey, look at the mirror. Look up at the list, because by now we probably had 30 things up there on the mirror.
Yep.
And I said, so what's missing from your life?
And I sat there staring at the words written on our mirror / whiteboard. And I realized that at least as my career went and my career and my present life were not aligned with what really mattered most to me. And this feeling of unhappiness that I had and had been experiencing throughout my career and most recently was really an incongruity between who I was on the inside and who I was being or acting or working as in the outside world.
So this reminds me of something I learned about 15 years ago. So I was doing some training, and one of my mentors at the time, who was Hawaiian, taught me this Hawaiian word that doesn't really have an English word. So we're going to go with the Hawaiian word here.
Okay.
And that word is Pono. And he explained that living Pono meant that we were striving to live in perfect alignment with all aspects of our life, including our spiritual life, right? And he said that being Pono involves maintaining a harmonious relationship with yourself and aligning your thoughts and actions with your inner personal set of values and beliefs. Okay, so we try to align our thoughts and our actions, the things that we're doing externally, with our internal set of values and beliefs. And, it's interesting because when we shoot for that, and that's our aim and that's our goal, we get these little glimpses of being Pono. That's when we really can feel the difference of being congruent. And what we feel is this really great sense of inner peace and balance. For me, that's what I notice. Like when I'm aligned with what's true to me, that is when I feel the most peace and the most balance, the most harmony in my life. And that's also where I find that I can achieve the most personal growth in my life. And I think it's interesting because scholars, philosophers have always, sought to find the answer to the question, what is it that gives one a sense that their life has meaning?
Right.
Right. What gives your life meaning? What gives your life purpose?
What is the meaning of life? But it's the reverse of that is what gives you meaning in this life.
Yeah. And I think the answer for me now at this stage of my life is this. It is that living in alignment with our deepest beliefs and our deepest values is what gives that sense that our life means something. And as we practice this more, the more I believe that that's true. And the more that I try to, and again, this is like life work, but the more I strive for that, the more I'm like done with trying to please others, try to have a persona or a pseudo self that impresses the world, because those things just make me anxious. What I really want is this living true. I don't really love that word, but living in alignment with my true self. And I can feel that almost like at a cellular level when I'm in that alignment. I feel that. And when I slip out of that and I'm doing things that are not true to me, then I immediately can feel that as well. And I want to ask myself, okay, what am I doing right now that's not in alignment with my values?
Yeah. And that can seem a little ambiguous. This how do I find what maybe my true self is? How do I live in Pono, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what am I aligning myself with? And the answer is we're aligning ourselves with our values and beliefs.
Right.
Now let's talk a little bit and define exactly what values are. Often we think of values as this set of morals or ethics, but that's not entirely accurate. To put it simply, values are really the thing that we deem most important in life, things for which we'll spend all of our money and our energy and our resources to have or to achieve or to reinforce. In many cases, we would even be willing to sacrifice our own life for our most important values.
Oh, for sure. Especially
Those are
when
the
it
things that
comes,
drive us.
especially when it comes to when you think about your kids, right? They're one of the most
Family
important
or
things in
kids
your
or any of
life.
those.
You would
Yeah.
give your life for those things. So
Yeah.
our core deepest values, of course, like we would sacrifice anything for.
Yeah.
And values also drive our motivations. So this is really interesting. There's a direct link between our values and our motivations. And we may not even realize why we're being driven to act or react or to do certain things, but we can be certain that if something is one of our top values and we're strongly motivated toward it, then it's definitely in our values. And if there's something that we're just trying to make ourselves do and we don't want to do it and we lack the motivation for it, it's very likely that it's not in our values.
And I think we've all reached that point when it comes to understanding this about ourselves. Those projects at work, or even those projects where maybe you completed the project and it was done right. And you look at it and you're like, man, I wasted my time on this. I mean, it's done, it's complete. And that should give you some insight that really didn't mesh with your inner value set.
Right.
And so you're not going to receive joy and satisfaction from that endeavor, whatever that endeavor is.
And that's a good point. So what you just described is what I call in the NLP language, I call it an evaluation filter, which pretty much just means after I've done something, how do I evaluate the work that I just did? Do I evaluate it as good or bad, as a success or a failure? And what is happening when an evaluation is happening, it's happening at an unconscious level, but it's basing its success or failure on whether it aligned with their values or not.
Absolutely.
Right?
Funny, I must have been feeling that at my previous job.
Maybe just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Above all, when our life doesn't reflect our most important values, we tend to feel sort of apathetic, unmotivated, unhappy, unfulfilled, like something's missing and we can't put our finger on it. Just like that one situation we were talking about.
Sounds familiar.
While all this seems simple and maybe a little bit obvious, it's really complicated by the fact that most of our values are out of our conscious awareness. We often don't even know what they are. They operate primarily in our unconscious mind, behind the scenes, like an invisible force that's constantly motivating or demotivating and evaluating our lives and our decisions.
Exactly. So I think this is a key thing that I want to spend just a little bit of time on because it's important, I think, to understand just how unconscious we are sometimes to our values because it's a big thing. This is an important topic and it's not like, oh, I know what's important to me. I can just skip over this. No, I think for the most part, we really aren't aware of what our values are. So I want to talk about just how unconscious our values are. And we have to look at the brain a little bit to talk about this and how the brain filters information. So Hungarian psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, he wrote a book called Flow. And in this book, he says that every second of every day, we have 2 million bits of data that's bombarding our nervous system. And it's coming in through our 5 senses every second, 2 million, 2 million, 2 million. It's a lot of data, right?
Yeah, and if you think about that, your brain has to filter that out.
Right.
At some point. Right?
Yeah, it's way too much.
Just like drinking from a fire hose. That's a lot of data.
Yes. And far more than our conscious brain can handle. In fact, we can only handle a drinking fountain or about 126 bits of that 2 million bits of information. We can't
drink. A little less
than
a garden hose.
Or a fire hose.
Yeah.
Right?
Not a fire hose, but a little bit less than a garden hose.
Yeah. So our brain has to be able to filter, our conscious mind has to filter this data by deleting information, distorting information, generalizing information. And it uses certain criteria to do that. And it uses filters. And these filters that are being used to filter the data are,
let me guess, values.
Yes.
I like this.
It's one of the filters, one of the key filters. There's several of them, but one of the key filters is your values. In fact, your values filter is the strongest and the most unconscious of all the filters.
Well, that makes sense, right? If you think about if you're, let's just go with you're a new mom, right? Like you're a new mom and you hear a baby cry. Yeah. Like your value set at that point in time is
care for the safety and protection.
Care and safety for your child, right? And so any baby cries and immediately your brain has decided that is a noise or a sound that needs attention. And so it's filtering that in instead of filtering it out. I hear a baby cry, I filter it out because I don't have any babies around me right now.
Yeah. Good example. And here's the interesting thing about values too, is that you have values in every area or aspect of your life. So if you were to picture a wheel, like a pie graph or a wheel, and divide it up into, let's say, 6 or 7 or 8 different slices. So every area of your life is represented on this pie chart. Career, as Robert just talked about, is one area of life, but we also have family or parenting or children, your marriage.
Yep.
You have health and fitness. You might have spirituality. You might have personal growth and development. So you have all these different areas of life. And within each of those areas of life, you have this unconscious set of values that's directing your perceptions, what you hear, what you see, what you taste, smell, touch, right? What you perceive, also filtering out and determining your motivations and doing all of these evaluations.
So what you're saying is for every important area of my life and maybe some unimportant. So like our marriage, I have a set of values for marriage.
Yeah.
I have a different set of values, similar but different, discrete set of values for career.
Correct.
Health and fitness. We're going to get to the point where we dig out how to find these, right?
We are.
Okay, good. Whew. All right. Yeah. So back to being Pono. All right. Being Pono means we're striving to make decisions every day that align our actions with our values. So now let's apply this to relationships.
Okay. So we talked about career.
But
let's talk about this in the context of committed relationships. So we've been married 32 years, 32 and a half, almost 33. Not all of those years have been great. Not perfect.
Yeah. And we often tell people that we've had 3 marriages, all with the same person.
Yeah.
So we call our first marriage the you're never going to make it marriage. Statistically speaking, with 5 divorces between our 2 parents and the volatility of conflict styles that we learned and that we brought to our relationship, wow, we never should have made it.
We never should have made it.
We were, of the things that were good in the you should have never made it phase, we were good at arguing.
We were really good at that.
Yeah. I mean, like A+.
I mean, if you
high five for arguing.
If you count good as things like, criticism, contempt, defensiveness,
raising
negativity, yelling, manipulation.
Yeah.
We were good at those.
We never should have made it.
Yeah.
Let's call marriage 2 the complacency marriage, right? We were good friends, occasional lovers, great domestic partners, but we gave each other what was left over. We gave our kids everything. I gave my career everything. And then Charlotte got what was left to me. And that's That's not
Not the best.
That's not the best. Yeah.
And then marriage 3 started. You guys have heard us share this story maybe in the past. We were driving in the car one day and going downtown, going through this roundabout, and
She still remembers the roundabout.
I
don't.
do. I remember exactly where I was. Anyway, I turned to Robert, he's driving his truck, and I said, honey, can you remember a time, like a specific time when you felt deeply loved by me? And I was thinking of all the ways I'm such an awesome wife. And he's going to give me a long list of praise and validation right now of all the ways that I've loved him. And he couldn't think of a single thing.
Yeah, no, I got nothing.
He had nothing.
Yeah.
And so that was the day that we really got intentional.
Yeah.
That's when things changed greatly for us. And we decided to apply this concept of values to our marriage. And that's when we got aligned. That's when we started intentionally growing together instead of apart. And that's when we discovered really what was even possible for our relationship, that we had no idea how great it could really be until we started working with values.
Yeah. That has been such a game changer for our relationship. And so you're listening to the podcast and you've made it this far. And now we're going to talk about why this is important, right? So because we saw the change in our lives, and we did it for a number of years before we started really talking to people about it. Mm-hmm. But every year as a couple, we have this ritual of it's our aligning values, and we call it our annual marriage retreat, right? And we take off and we disappear for a few days in January. We go up to the mountains that are nearby here, and we find a cabin or a hotel room. And the primary purpose of this weekend is to align our marriage. We celebrate our achievements from the previous year, and then we ask 3 key questions, which we'll share with you in a moment, to discover the current values and the context of our relationship. Now, why do we do this every year? Like, I got her values last year. I should know what they are. Because life has a way of changing us. And every year, our values sort of just adjust and change, and our values are not always fixed. And so we need to update our relationship, and I need to update what I know about her and what she knows about my values so that we can keep growing together and stay deeply connected.
Yep. And here's a little secret, you guys, that is so important. Not only for growing together and staying aligned together, but research shows that every predictor for divorce, or if you're not married, dissolution of the relationship, every predictor comes down to how a couple fights. It's just so difficult for anyone, any relationship to succeed and for couples to have goodwill and to enjoy contributing to one another's lives when the fights are filled with blame, insults, criticism, contempt, manipulation.
Yeah.
But here's the secret. Do you know what couples are really fighting about? They're not fighting about the money. They're not fighting about the chores. They're not fighting about the sex. What they're really fighting about is their values. It's about the values each person unconsciously holds about each of those things.
Yeah, every argument starts with a values mismatch.
Yep,
I believe that without a doubt. It's not about the fact that you left your cup on the counter.
Right.
It's about the value that either cleaning up or whatever has to do with you, and how your partner doesn't understand that value. And it may just be ignorance.
And because values go to the core of our identity,
we get fired up.
Right? Because they go to this root of who we really are. When your partner has a different perspective on something, not only do we get fired up, but we see our partner as a threat because we see that difference as a threat to ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. But if couples can get to the point where they see conflict for what it really is and have conversations about their values, they can almost always find ways to manage their disagreements. But first, we need to get down to knowing each other's values. So, would it be helpful if we showed you how to discover and align your own individual values in any area of your life that you want?
Yep. In any area, not just in your relationship. Area, right. You can take the same information and apply it to your career. You can apply it to anything.
Yeah. So if that would be useful, then get out your pen and paper, because we're going to get you started on how to do that.
Okay. So those three questions we mentioned earlier, we're going to give those two now. And there's a famous quote that's attributed to Carl Jung that I always remember right about now. And he said, or we think he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.
That's so awesome. Like, think about that, about how values, now that we understand, if you've been paying attention, right? Now we understand that your unconscious values drive what you do in your life.
Yep. Your motivations, your
right?
evaluations.
And until you make them conscious, you really aren't going to have much control over it. Or when you do make it conscious, you'll be able to find what I like to call the easy button.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that again.
So when we make these, so what we're going to do now is make these unconscious values conscious. So the first question, why don't you share that?
Okay. So the first question, and we already gave you that is what is important to you in the context of your blank? So right now, we're going to use the word relationship into that blank. So what's important to you in the context of your relationship? But when you're ready to discover your values for other area of your life, career, health and fitness, spirituality,
family, parenting,
personal growth,
yeah.
Just insert that term into that blank.
This is a really great exercise for second marriages when you're co-parenting and you brought kids.
Absolutely.
Do this in the context of parenting.
Yeah. Most of us don't understand these unconscious values that we have when it comes to parenting. And I will tell, first marriage for Charlotte and I, and our last child is our child together. We didn't bring different parenting ideas, yet we still disagree on how to parent him.
Yep.
On our unconscious values. So again, the question would be, what is important to you in the context of your relationship? We're going to pause. Then we're going to say, what else is important to you in the context of your relationship? Pause again. What else? Continue asking this question in your mind over and over. And then you're just going to brain dump everything that comes out, everything until you can't think of anything else. And so for me, I already know that when we do this in our marriage retreat, when I'm getting down to the very end, what's important to you in the context of our marriage, and I write Captain Crunch, like my brain has just spit out everything, and I like some Captain Crunch from time to time, but it's sort of at the bottom of my list.
So then we move on to, if we get down to silly answers, we're definitely going to move on to question number 2. And question number 2 has to do with motivation, because remember, values are directly tied to motivation. So question number 2 is, can you remember a specific time when you were totally motivated in the context of your relationship? So you want to think of a specific time. You want to go back to that memory in your mind and play back the memory and identify the feeling that you had right before motivation, because that feeling is going to be another value. So this is digging out those unconscious values. So can you remember a time? You're going to continue to repeat this question as well until you get repeat answers or nothing else comes up. But can you remember a time, a specific time when you were totally motivated in the context of your relationship? Go back to that time, play back the memory. What was the feeling that you had right before motivation? Okay. Yeah. Continue to add those to your list. And then the third question, and we're adding to the same list each time, but the third question is going to dig deeper into the unconscious. And that's where you're going to look at your list and all of these things that you've listed. Maybe there's 30 or 40 things now. And you're going to say, okay, assuming you had everything here.
And Captain Crunch.
No Captain Crunch.
Okay.
Assuming you have all of these things present, is there anything that could happen that would make you leave this relationship?
Absolutely.
And there's usually something like you look at the list and you're like, oh, infidelity maybe, or whatever. Okay. So then make a mental note of what that thing was that would cause you to leave, and then say, then what would it be that you would need in order to stay?
Yeah.
And that thing that you would need to stay, that's a value, right? So look at that, write that down, because that could be a value that you missed.
Absolutely. And once you've created this exhaustive and comprehensive list of all your values in this one specific area of your life, we want you to order them from most important to least important. And the key is to do this very quickly so that your unconscious mind is making the decision. Values exist within this hierarchy in your unconscious mind, and it's important that we just get through them as quick as we can, look at them and go, oh, that's number 1, and oh, that's 2, 3, 4. And then at the end of this, once we've ordered them, the top 5 to 7 values is what we find really run your life. Those are the ones that are the most in charge for this, all of your unconscious actions, all the filtering that you do with all these 2 million bits of data that's coming in. And this
Yes.
might take a little bit of time. It might take an hour or so, but after you have that list of values, you'll find that these are the ones that drive your life. And it's what I like to call the easy button for your relationship, because now you know the things that are most important unconsciously, what drives your partner.
That's
And when you
right.
have that list,
Then we can do some magic.
then we can do some magic.
But still, at this point, they're just words on a page, right?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
just
we gotta do
words on a
something about
page,
it.
and we have to take those words that are on a piece of paper and we have to do something about that. And so, what we teach you to do, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, is take that list and turn it into rituals. Design a life with rituals, daily rituals, weekly rituals, monthly rituals, annual rituals that honor and support those values that you just came up with, right? So the final step of this process is to sit down. If you're doing this for yourself in the context of career, you can do this by yourself. But if you're doing this in your relationship, then you should sit down with your partner and you should talk about and brainstorm out what these rituals are going to be that for the two of you that honor and support the value set. And they should be easy. You know, I think the best rituals are the small ones, but really, really meaningful rituals that you do consistently, that you will do consistently day after day, week after week, month after month. And when Robert and I do this final step, we take his top 5 values, we take my top 5 values, and then those little mind maps where you put a circle in the middle and then you make like spider legs coming out from them. In the middle of the circle, we put the value. So if the value is honest and open communication, we write that in the middle, and then we diagram out from that all potential ideas.
Yeah, all the things that are important about that value.
And ways that we can then incorporate rituals that would support that value.
Yeah. So for example, if it was health and fitness, it would be like exercise, diet, making sure I'm getting enough supplementation and nutrition. So all those types of things. Because open and honest communication is an important value for the both of us. We also spend a lot of time learning about each other's upcoming day before we leave the house in the morning. This is an important ritual for us.
That's an important ritual.
Yeah.
And since we both value quality time together, one of the rituals we have is he picks me up after work and we go for a 20-minute drive around the neighborhood. We grab a drink. We have a debrief about our day. We talk about the successes of the day, the challenges of the day, and we just sort of let each other know how that day went.
Yeah. And we have rituals for staying active and healthy together. So rituals for physical touch and intimacy, rituals for how we handle conflict. Our lives are filled with meaningful rituals for every one of our top values. And as our values change from year to year, we simply adjust our rituals to match. If couples will do this in their relationship, they will be strong. Their sex life will be filled with passion. Their friendship will be unbreakable. And yes, they still will have some conflict. Everyone does. But their conflict will be respectful and manageable. And best of all, the relationship will feel Pono. It will have a deep sense of meaning and purpose.
We also have a course that goes deeper into this. It goes step by step, more slowly through each of the questions and the process. And it comes with a workbook that you can get to go through this whole thing that we just talked about today. And we'll link to that in the show notes for those of you who are interested. But we just want to say once again, we're so grateful for all of you. Our little podcast has really grown a lot in the last year, and it's because of you. And, the algorithm, as we told you before, thrives on your ratings and your comments, which helps us really to make a much bigger impact. So we just ask, if you haven't, would you show us a little love today by leaving us a 5-star review and a comment?
Absolutely. And more importantly, as always, if there's someone in your life that needs a little help in their relationship that would benefit from this episode, would you please kindly share it with them?
And of course, be kind to each other this week. Take care of each other. Put each other first. Remember, it's the small things done often that make the biggest impact.
Until next time.